Hello and welcome to the Health Evolution Collective. Today, I have the honor of introducing you to Andre Obradovic. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, Andre.
Hi, Tracy. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's fantastic. I've obviously, followed you for some time since I stepped into the world of the Noakes Foundation and the Nutrition Network, and, have really even watched lectures of yours through the Nutrition Network. So I'm really, really honored to be able to talk to you today and get your insights and learn more about what it is that you do. So maybe we could start by sharing with everyone, if, we met at a conference, at one of those face-to-face things that doesn't happen at the moment, how would you introduce yourself?
Well, my name's Andre Obradovic. I'm 56 years young. My heart age is under 30. I'm a full-time health coach. I love helping people transform their lives. So I don't transform their lives. They do it with my help. It's what I do full-time. I use one approach in terms of my methodology, and that is low carbohydrate nutrition as the cornerstone for that. I also coach triathletes and marathon runners, but once again, only if they adopt my process, which is low carbohydrate nutrition and what we call maffetone training, which is sort of against conventional stupidity, that I call it, of the traditional way of exercise. And that's what I do full time. And I race myself as well. So I live and breathe what I do. I eat twice a day. I eat low carb. I don't drink alcohol, haven't for 8 years, apart from probably 2 beers in that 8 years. One of them was after the World Championship half Ironman race in Chattanooga, where I just wanted to have a beer. So I live and breathe what I coach people in and talk about. And yeah, that's what I do full time. Everything I do is virtual via video with people all around the world. I don't do anything on Facebook. I don't have a Facebook account. So I don't go on social media much apart from LinkedIn and Twitter. And I focus my time working with my customers or clients all one-on-one. I don't do any group work. And I've got a personal health story that sort of led me to this as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot in that I'm going to come back to, but would love to hear your personal health story that led you there, if you're happy to share that.
Yeah, sure. So about 8 years ago, I was 80 kilos, and today I'm 62.3. And I've been below 65, between 65 and 62 for about 7 years, without any effort at all. But before that, I was 80 kilos. So I was like, I'm 56 now. So when I was about 48, I'd spent 20 years in the army. I had a couple of corporate jobs. And over that time, I just put on weight. And I thought, well, okay, everyone else in the office is a little bit chunky. I actually didn't think I was fat. I mean, if you saw me, you wouldn't have said I was fat. But when you look at a photo of me then and now, with that 14 to 16 kilos difference, and I'm only short, I'm only 5'6", there is a big difference. But at the time, as a 48, 50-year-old, I'm just thinking, well, everyone else in the office is a bit chunky. I'm okay. I'm running marathons. I'm doing a 3:49 marathon. I'm running 70 kilometers a week. I'm doing everything right. I wasn't actually following a diet. I was just eating what I read throughout all the fitness industry, which I call the sickness industry. So I was following the sickness industry approach, which is eat your porridge and eat your bread and eat your oats and eat lots of carbs to fuel your body for marathon training. I've got a book here. I'll show you. Marathon. Where is it? Oh, where is my book? Where is it? Oh, here we go. Here it is. Advanced Marathoning. This book should be ripped up and thrown out, because I was following this book by this guy and it was keeping me fat. So I was following their approach to nutrition, which was all about you've got to have 20 grams of carbohydrates per kilo of body weight every 15 minutes or every hour. And it wasn't working. And I was also seeing a dietitian because one morning I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I'm thinking, actually, I took my stupid glasses off, because for years I'd been wearing glasses that wasn't showing the reality of the situation. In fact, the reality of the situation is step one in my coaching process. We'll come back to that. And I took those glasses off and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, man, you're fat. You're old and fat and you don't want to be like this. So I went to a lecture at the Epworth by Stephen Finney, who you and many of your listeners will know. And that was just before Christmas about 8 years ago. And that totally changed my life. I bought his books, him and Jeff Volek's books. I came home, I watched heaps and heaps and heaps of YouTube videos of Stephen Finney, and then I learned about Tim Noakes. And within 6 months, I'd lost, 10 kilos, just like that. I went cold turkey, bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, bananas, oats, cold turkey, orange juice, anything low fat just went out of my diet. And sure, my running was a bit affected, but I lost that weight just like that because I'd been denying the fact that I was taking the wrong approach. I was seeing a dietitian that I was paying $200 an hour to keep me fat. I was going to Sydney to see this highly respected Australian nutritionist, lovely person she was. She was making me count calories and I had a spreadsheet and it was like calorie deficient and my Garmin training stats were going in, and every time I spoke to her, she goes, oh, well, you've lost half a kilo, you're calorie deficient, you're running and all the calories are all balancing out and you're deficient, so you should lose more. And so if I was lucky, I'd get down to 71 kilos before a marathon, and then straight after the marathon, I'd put 3 kilos on. And this was just this compounding thing. And I was going to the physio every second day to get my calves massaged because they were so sore, because I was also following the stupid approach to running, which was go and smash yourself every day and do a tempo run and a hill run and a long run and do sprints, because that's the standard thing that most coaches give you, is this blueprint they get out of Runner's World or, a book like that that's going to go in the rubbish bin. So all of that led me to this new approach of low carb, and I've been doing it for seven years now, and I'm never going back. My weight's been the same. I'm 7% body fat. And in COVID last year, I ran a 3:27 marathon, which is my fastest ever. And I ran it with a heart rate of 125. And the next day I wasn't even sore. I did it fasted. I had one mouthful of water at about 30 Ks, no goos, no supplements, no gels, nothing. And that's a combination of taking the stupid glasses off, realizing the real situation and training differently and eating differently. So that's, and then as part of that, I decided to do all my certifications for health coaching with the Primal Health Coaching Institute. I did the Real Meal course, my triathlon coaching courses in America and Australia, my ICF certified leadership and personal coaching, which I'm a PCC level coach in, which there's about 100 in Australia. And I quit the corporate world and started health coaching full time. And that's what I do. And so that's the story essentially. And I don't see anything going backwards towards any of it. Like, I've eaten pasta once in eight years because my daughter wanted me to eat pasta and I almost threw up. And, it's one of the worst, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the worst foods in the world. So I totally avoid gluten, alcohol. I try and avoid milk as much as I can because of the casein, protein, and lactose. So I only have lactose-free milk, a tiny bit in my caffeine-free tea. So I avoid caffeine. For the last 12 months, I've had no caffeine at all. I feel great. Take heaps of supplements. I get my bloods done every 6 months. Have about 36 markers done, including vitamin D, homocysteine, insulin, C-reactive protein. I track all of that, and I track my sleep like a ninja, and yeah, that's it.
Wow, what a story. Where do I start? First of all, I'd just like to ask you, so you took all that stuff out. What did you actually put in with your diet? Because people are always really interested to know what people, like you, what do you eat?
I eat whole foods, real foods. I rarely eat anything out of a packet. So lots of eggs, fish twice a week, not salmon. Salmon's poison, in my opinion, if it comes from a farm. So I eat like fresh caught fish, gummy shark and stuff like that. Grass-fed meat, small serves, 120 grams, lots of green vegetables. Because I've only got 7% body fat and I train 18 hours a week, I do eat sweet potato every day. If I was trying to lose weight, I wouldn't. But I always eat it with fat. I cook in bacon fat or meat fat. So, when I cook meat or bacon, I save the fat, and that's what I, saute my vegetables in the next day. I eat gluten-free bread from the gluten-free precinct because, once again, I'm not trying to lose weight. I don't want to lose weight, and some days I get down to 61 kilos, and that's not very good for me. So I eat bread, but it's only gluten-free. I won't eat sourdough bread or anything like that. Butter, olive oil, lots of vegetables. I don't get distress. I don't think I have an allergic reaction to vegetables apart from maybe kale, so I try and avoid that. I don't eat any grains, couscous, quinoa. I try and avoid those as much as possible. And I don't believe in breakfast, lunch, dinner. I just call it a meal. So, today I had, for my first meal today, which was 12:30 a.m., I had gluten-free, free-range pork sausages from last night with tomato and beans, zucchini, pumpkin, and sweet potato just warmed up. That was so I work on a process where whenever I eat at night, that is my meal for the next day, first meal. So I've already made the food and it's in the fridge and I just warm it up in a pan.
So you're not concerned about eggs? We seem to have this repeating story going around that, eggs are bad for us in terms of the cholesterol.
You mean cholesterol? No, not at all.
Yeah,
my total cholesterol is 6.6. My HDL is about 2.1. I sacked a doctor that said he wanted me to have statins. So I changed doctors and went to Rob Szabo, who was working in Melbourne. He's now working up in Albury, I think. And, I had a subfractional analysis done of my cholesterol and there was no small dense LDL. If people don't know what that means, they should watch a video by Ken Sikaris. You might want to put it in the show notes or whatever. And he says doctors are 30 years out of date in terms of measuring cholesterol. But, as far as I'm concerned, the more important thing is your triglyceride levels, your blood sugar, HbA1c, and your insulin levels, especially if you're overweight. And if people get told by their doctor their cholesterol's too high, they should ask these two questions. Should we do a calcium score to check the calcium on my heart? And the second one should be, so if you're telling me to take statins, I understand that only 1% of people get a benefit from them, so why would I take them? And I'm not giving any medical advice, but, only 1% of people get a benefit from statins, and most doctors wouldn't even know that. In fact, I've just started coaching a doctor in Australia to lose weight, and he said my cholesterol's too high, so I filled him in last night. He's a great guy. So he's gonna lose his weight, and he's going to go on to change a lot of his clients' lives as well.
Yeah. That's
so. Right. Does that cover the eggs?
Yes, it covers the eggs, and it also I love how you say you sacked your doctor. Again, giving us the power to choose. I love that. So I want to move on just with that sort of. In that sort of frame, you talk about taking your stupid glasses off. Can you talk a little bit about that? And maybe in the context of, you said that was the first thing you do with your clients. So how does that look for your clients?
Yeah, okay. So I think, I interview clients before I take any money from them because I want to make sure that they're ready to commit. Because I only work one-on-one with people, and I don't want to work with people that are going to go AWOL on me or that aren't ready for the changes, because, when you tell someone you're going to ask them to stop drinking alcohol for at least 12 weeks or to stop eating bread or pasta or oats, they can have a big reaction to that, right? Yeah. So what I tend to do is if someone comes to me let's typical example, yeah? So a man who's 48, 20 kilos overweight, he thinks he's 10 kilos overweight. And then I run the numbers and show him. And after some questioning, he says, actually, yeah, I probably could lose 20 kilos. I say to him, how old are you? If he's got kids, so he's got kids, I say, how old are they? And he might say 14. And I'm saying, okay, so your daughter or your son, if we're allowed to say that these days in this politically correct environment, you know, let's assume they're going to get married to something or someone in 10 years. You're going to be 58. He goes, yeah. I said, okay, so tell me, what do you look like at 58? And I just don't say anything. And then I say, and then they may say something. I say, well, what's your life going to be like at 58 if you don't make some changes from where you are now? So the first thing is getting them to look forward to what's their life going to be like if they don't lose weight. So if someone's 20 kilos overweight now, in 10 years, they're going to be 25, if not 30 kilos, at least 25 kilos overweight, if not 30. So I sort of pose those questions and ask them to accept the reality of the situation, which is, you know, without being rude or horrible, but in bluntly making them aware they're significantly overweight, but it's not their fault. So I always say, it's not your fault, mate. Like if you were my client, I'd say, Tracy, it's not your fault. You've just been following the bullshit advice in the magazines and on TV and from idiots on Facebook and Twitter and all these science people that say you need to follow the science and go calories in, calories out, and all of the idiot trainers at the gym that want to sell you protein shakes and make you come to every class and you never have any results. I said, it's not your fault. But at least now you've had the courage and the realization that you're going to invest money and time to change the situation. So it's all about that. That is the reality of the situation, is acknowledging where they at is where they're at, and that it is unhealthy, that they need to lose 20 kilos. But when you say to someone, how long's it taken you to put that on? And they might say, 20 years. Like I've just got off a call with a lady from Sydney. She's amazing. She's lost 9 kilos. And if she loses another 2 kilos, that'll be the weight she was 40 years ago when she joined the police force. Right. It's like, so, you know, you say to people, you know, this might take you 12 months, but in 12 months, you could be at the same weight you were 30 years ago. And people they don't understand that. They can't believe that. So you got to work with people to say, well, if you make these changes, this is where your life could be, or you'll be in a wheelchair with diabetes with one leg, maybe, because that's what might happen. Or how are you going to look at the wedding of your daughter and son? What do you want to look like? What do you want to be like? How do you want to feel when you wake up? So the questions are all about, if someone comes and says they feel horrible, they have runny bowels every day, they don't sleep well, you sort of ask them questions about that and ask them what they want to change and get them to explain how they want to be. And that's step one, is the reality of the situation. And what we do is, you know, I get a whole range of blood tests done, the same tests I get done for me. I write to their doctor and they get a whole lot of bloods done. And I say to them, now, tell me what the doctor said. And in fact, what I often do is I'll write notes about what the doctor said them, send it to them, and I'll say, I bet you this is what the doctors said. And then we have the call and they say, yeah, they said my cholesterol's too high. I don't need to have a vitamin D test because I'm in range. I don't need a supplement because my vitamin D is 30, where it should be 250. Like mine's 267, right? We want optimal vitamin D for a whole range of, you know, osteoporosis prevention and stuff like that. You know, that they said I didn't need an insulin test, whereas if someone's 20 kilos overweight, they're probably insulin resistant. So we use all of that data from the doctor as well, and we work through that, and then we move on to the next step, which is the education and the unlearning of all the stupid stuff that people have been taught and learned. Does that sort of cover the glasses bit, do you think?
Yeah, it definitely does. And then, you know, taking it a little bit further from that. So in that first discussion, if someone comes to you, they are, you know, 10, 20 kilos overweight, and they say to you, know, Andre, I want to run a marathon and I want to do a triathlon. You know, that's going to help me lose weight. Let's go. Can we do that?
Well, I'll say, I'm not going to coach you to do a triathlon or marathon because you're 20 kilos overweight or 10 kilos overweight. And you're just going to injure yourself. And if we need to exercise to lose weight, we're eating the wrong way. Our approach to nutrition is inappropriate for our body. And that gets an interesting reaction. So I've lost a few clients, but that's okay. I'm not fussed by that. You know, some clients have really thrived by that because they're like, what do you mean? Like my old coach was always, because, 95% of coaches, triathlon coaches or fitness coaches, follow calories in, calories out, because they're not nutrition experts. They're not real. The vast majority of them aren't trained to actually coach people. They're taught to write programs for them and tell them the standard BS about nutrition, which is calories in, calories out. So I say, no, you've got to lose your weight first. And if you want to do that, I can help you with that. And the only exercise I'm going to ask you, so then they say, oh, okay. So they may start doing the food thing with me, but within a couple of weeks, they'll lose 1 kilo, 2 kilos, 3 kilos. And then what happens is they might stop tracking their food on the system I use, and they may slow down losing weight. And they'll say, oh, I've been thinking maybe I should be doing some more exercise. I'm like, hang on, let's just go back again. You haven't tracked your food. What's going on? Oh, well, I'm eating a bit of bread and having a beer. I'm like, okay. So you're saying you're going to eat shit and you want to exercise. I said, that's not what we're doing here, pal. Like, we're going to get the food right so you have health. Health is more important than fitness, and then we'll work on your fitness. So then we get them back on track and they understand. I say, so the only exercise I want you to be doing is walking the dog, maybe doing some yoga, or maybe doing some maffetone-based aerobic walking or running at a very low heart rate, where you're running and walking and you're not going above MAF heart rate, because we don't want to elicit a cortisol spike, which turns your fat burning off, introduces more stress into your body. And this is very important for women as well, with all of their peculiar hormone issues. Is women are almost as bad. I just finished probably 6 months ago working with a lady called Yasmin who lost 22 kilos. She's on my website, and the photos of her before and after are just amazing. And she came to me, she's a lovely woman, with this thing of getting up at 5:30, going to the gym every morning, doing all these group classes, and nothing was changing. And within 12 months, she's lost 22 kilos, and the only exercise she did was walking on a treadmill at home. But she came into it saying, I need to do exercise. And I'm like, okay, what's that about? I like it. It's going to help me. I'm like, okay, well, trust me, just do what I say, and then we'll do some exercise later. So to cut a story short, if people have that approach, I won't work with them. They have to lose their weight first, and they have to fix their approach to nutrition first.
It's so different to what we've been told. I mean, I was a personal trainer for 10 years before I got into this space, and, I've been guilty very much of giving, obviously, the people the wrong advice. That was what I knew back then. And, still every day see, as you talk about, it's just pervasive out there. So I'm not sure if you can explain it and explain what the MAF method is, but, how did we get it so wrong? What is it about exercise that, it's not about the weight loss? Can you explain that in terms of maybe MAF as well?
Yeah, sure. Well, just to go back on the personal trainer thing, I am a personal trainer, but I don't do it. And I think people want to be told what they want to hear. So, when we were doing our personal training course, like you were, I was a Les Mills instructor. We were all, yeah, and then I quit it because they told me I wasn't fit enough because I couldn't spin my legs at 140 RPM. And I said, yeah, okay, thanks, buddy. I've just been in the World Championships in Chattanooga, and some instructors telling me I'm not fit enough to do the advanced course. But anyway, we're told that people want the hype, they want the buzz, they want the adrenaline, they want the endorphins from exercise. So that's what we give them, because they'll keep coming back.
Yeah. And
then people think, oh, well, no one else is losing weight. Like, it's normal. Like, it makes sense. I'm getting old. Like, you go to the gym when the gyms are open, not like us in Melbourne where we're not allowed to have a gym. You go to the gym and it's the same lovely people. They're doing nothing wrong. They're on the treadmill, the stair climber, doing these classes week in and week out. I was working at 3 gyms and nothing changes. But because nothing changes for anyone, they accept that that's just their part in life. And the fitness industry pushes that. They'll sell protein shakes. It's about calories in, calories out, not to go over all this again. But we tell people what they want to hear. And our job as a health coach, your and my job, is to tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, right? And that's the approach. But, okay, why did we get exercise or endurance training so wrong? I think was your question. And what's the math method? Yeah. Okay. Well, it makes sense. Train hard, go faster. That makes sense. There was this ethos that pain delivers benefits, but no pain, no gain is what we should be. You know, that no pain, no gain is dead. For some Olympic athletes who are really like young and don't have all these hormonal problems, who are still young and haven't had years and years and years of adrenal fatigue from exercising like hell and having stress, they can probably push themselves really hard and perform. I don't know what their health's going to be like in years to come. In fact, you can probably look at a lot of them that are exhausted and fatigued. You know, they'll often get diabetes. So Rob De Castella, a wonderful man, I've met him, I've run with him in New York at the marathon. You know, if you look a photo up of him now, he's almost obese. It's not because he stopped exercising. It's because of all the sugars and carbs, because he's got diabetes, I'm sure, right? So it makes sense to people. The harder you work, the fitter you get. But, you know, there's an amazing man called Dr. Phil Maffetone who has published many books. This is, you know, one of his Bibles. You know, I use his approach in my training and all of my coaching with people, and it's based on all of the work he's done to show that there's a lot of stress that comes into our body from life, from, you know, our general life, and then training. And if we are continually working out, we have 3 energy systems: the ATP CP system, which is only used for like 2 or 3 seconds, if that; the anaerobic system, which is, you know, in a 15-minute workout or run, is only about 15% of our energy system. But the aerobic system is the one we use the majority of time. But for a lot of people, they think that that's too easy. So if we are constantly in this anaerobic state, which most people do when they're exercising hard at a gym, we're bringing more and more stress into our body. We're wearing out our adrenal glands, which are little glands that sit on top of our kidneys. Our hormones get out of balance. And what happens is we end up wanting to burn sugar more. We get more inflammation in our body. We want to eat more sugar because our body is burning sugar instead of burning the fat that we have in our body. You know, we have enough fat, even I with 7% body fat and you with probably about the same, we have enough fat in our triglycerides in our body to exercise at a comfortable pace for days without needing any nutrition at all. We might need some water and salt. But people don't understand, how can you get fit and healthy by exercising comfortably? It makes sense. Push hard, get the results. But all pushing hard does all the time is lead us into ill health, bad fitness, sickness, fatigue, especially when we're not sleeping enough. And if you think about most normal people that have jobs, like I used to have, you know, a big corporate job, getting up at 5:30 when you should still be asleep, training from 6 o'clock till 7 or 7:30, or even some people I used to coach wanted to get up at 4:30 in the morning to get their training in so they could be finished training by 7 o'clock. That is just unhealthy. So the Maffetone method says we look at people's health and we say, in general, people's aerobic heart rate is a range of 10 beats. And that is where you take your age and you minus it off 180. So as an example, I'll get a pen here because I'm not good with maths. And I don't know mine because I never go over my MAF heart rate unless I'm racing. So I don't need to worry about my heart rate. I'm blessed. So 180 minus 50 is 130. Now, what there is there's a structure that says if you've had a major illness like cancer or COVID or severe autoimmune dysfunction, and you minus 10 beats off. So your MAF heart rate goes from 130 to 120. If you've had some minor gaps with your training, if you haven't been able to produce consistent results with your training, you minus 5. So your MAF heart rate would be 125. If you haven't had any inconsistencies and your training's generally been good, you leave it at that 130. If you've had consistent results, no ill health, and you've been performing, you add 5. For me, I add 10 because I've had 7 years of great results, improving health, all of that. And then you give yourself a spread of 10. So if your base MAF heart rate is 130, your zone is 120 to 130, and you work in that zone for when your prescribed sessions, that is your aerobic heart rate, which will probably be 20 beats lower than what the idiots at the gym tell you using those stupid charts that show 220 minus your age or whatever it is. It's probably 40 beats lower.
Yeah.
And when I start working with athletes, some of them have to jog, walk. But I've had athletes that their MAF pace was 6 minutes 30, now running at 4 minutes 45 over 2 years. So that means they've built that aerobic engine. So my MAF pace, I can run, a marathon at 4:45 pace per kilometre, and my average heart rate is 125. And my MAF, I'm 56, so plus 10, I'm 134 is my MAF, so I'm still in MAF. And I only go out of MAF for the last 10 minutes where I'm giving it a caning, running at like 4:30 pace. So the Maffetone approach focuses on heart rate, but it also focuses on teaching people about low-carb nutrition and getting rid of processed foods and balancing stress from their life, appropriate sleep, looking at resting heart rate, looking at heart rate variability, and having appropriate strength training in the program and making sure there's rest and recovery. So the MAF method is what it's called. Phil Maffetone is the guru of that. I'm one of his founding coaches on his website. There's about 10 of us, I think. And he has a course that's run. And he has trained Mark Allen, one of the world's greatest triathletes. He's trained heaps of Olympic athletes. You can look him up on YouTube and follow his approach. But the thing is, it takes patience, but patience delivers the results. So if someone watching this is 40, 45, and you want to be able to run like a legend when you're 55, have a couple of years of doing the MAF approach and you see what happens. I guarantee you it'll work.
And just you saying that a couple of years is really important, because I remember posting about this on LinkedIn, and we commented that a lot of people don't have the patience. So I think we have to go into it understanding this isn't a short-term quick fix like anything that's good, and that we're going to constantly come up against the dogma, particularly if, say, our training has been with groups, in the past, well, we're probably not going to be able to keep up with the group if we're going to stick to the MAF method. So there's a whole lot of uncomfortable stuff that's probably going to come up, which is what you must help a lot of, your clients through.
Yeah, exactly. Like I do all my training by myself, so it's not a problem for me. But I have got a couple of clients that, one client, a gentleman who's just finished working with Michael, he's great. One of his friends who he runs with, Paula, has just started coaching with me. And she said, when we started with Michael, he was running 8-minute, 7.5-minute MAF pace. But now I can see he did a 21-minute 5K, and this guy's 62 or 63. And his MAF pace, because she learned all of this from him. So she's just started working with me. And she goes, no, I've got the patience because I've seen the results. And they used to do group runs as well. So when he started working with me, all of his runs during the week would be by himself. And then he'd just do the Sunday run with the group. So he'd get one run with them, but he'd still do his own thing. He'd still do the MAF running, not do their pace, So I guess it's people have to work on this thing about what's more important. Do they want to lose their weight? Do they want to feel good? Like, I did 3 New York marathons, and after every single one, I couldn't walk the next day. And like my legs were killing me. And just to be able to do that marathon last year in November, I ran from Middle Park to Bow Morrison back. Oh, don't tell Dan Andrews. And like the next day, I didn't even feel like I'd run 42.2 Ks in 3 hours 27, and that's just like that's worth nearly $1 million to me. It's just like that's what we want. People have to understand that long-term health aspect.
So how does strength training fit into it? I listened to a podcast with Phil recently talking to Brad Kearns. I keep saying Phil Kearns, the footy player, but Brad Kearns. And they were talking about the myths around strength training as well. Because, I guess just from my perspective, for the last couple of years, I used to run all the time, but I was a carb burning runner, and I had the ice baths and the gels and all that sort of stuff. I haven't done it a lot recently. I am getting back into it now, but I did a lot of strength work. And they were talking about how, there's a bit of a myth around that too. You can definitely overtrain when it comes to strength training. Was talking about how he thought he was really fit, but then he went and played a game of basketball with his son, and he couldn't last. After 5-10 minutes, he was exhausted because he had no endurance. So there really must be it must be important, obviously, to do a combination of both. So I'm interested in your thoughts on where does strength training fit? Is it just walking to start? Can you do a bit of both? Obviously it depends on the individual, but what's your, general view on that?
Okay. So it all has to be taking into account the per athlete's background. So if someone has never been into a gym before, I get them to start on something we call primal movements. And that's Mark Sisson and Brad's approach, which is essentially push-ups, planks, air squats, and chin-ups. And they do that. And once they build confidence in that, and they may do that every day, and it might be like 5 minutes, every time you go to the toilet from your desk, you do 10 push-ups or 5 push-ups, whether you use your knees or you push into the wall. There's a whole lot of progressions, and there's videos everywhere on YouTube. So, if someone has no background in any sort of bodyweight exercise, that's probably the first thing we do. The next thing would be going to a gym and using machines, so when I have clients, I put them on big machines. So leg press, leg extension, chest, chin-ups, basic machines that are easy to use, because if they're going to be a runner or a triathlete, we want to build the glutes, we want to build the hamstrings. Most people already have big enough quads. It's usually posterior dominance or posterior focus that we need. Once they build,
can I ask you, are they working with their heart rate method as well when they're doing that type of training?
Oh yeah, that would be the approach. Yeah. So everything is slow. Everything is slow and low reps, heavy weights, and nasal breathing as well. So then once we get through that, then it's into the gym where I say the big boys and girls go to play, where we're doing, the primary exercises I do, and I do strength training twice a week. It's only 45 minutes. I do that on a Monday and a Thursday usually, and every other day I'm running, swimming, riding, whatever. So I only do a 45-minute workout. I have a strength coach from Western Australia, Sarah Hunter. She works with a lot of my athletes as well. I could do it, but I want her because she is the expert, right? And I have about 10 exercises. It's always 3 sets, 6 to 8 reps only, heavy weights, nasal breathing. As an example, if I'm doing squats, it'll be really focused on good form, down slowly, holding at the bottom at 90 degrees for 3 or 4 seconds, and then powering up, and all nasal breathing. So no crazy fast movements. Everything's either, single leg deadlifts with a landmine bar, hex bar doing lunges and squats, or lunges and deadlifts, chin-ups, and then some plyometrics as well. So I have a physio rehab program I do as well, which includes single leg hopping, single leg calf holds, single leg calf raises. So for a runner, a lot of single leg work is very important, and making the workout specific. So the other thing about strength training, in my opinion, is it needs to be specific to the weaknesses you have. So I always get everyone to do an assessment with, I have a physio in every state, essentially, that I work with, that they go and do an assessment with. Physio writes a report. I look at that, and we either build a rehab program, which might be 10 minutes a day, and then we send that to Sarah, and she writes them. She does a consult with them and does a strength-based program, and then we put that into my system, and they do that. So I think strength training is important, but it has to be specific to the person and their goals and what they're trying to achieve. And for runners, if you've got people listening to this and they've got strength coaches or personal trainers and they're a runner, and 80% of their work isn't single leg work, then I'd be asking some questions about that. Or if they've got someone that's telling them to go and do boxing or Les Mill classes and they're a runner, then once again, the question is, how is that related to my running strength? It's not. Does that make sense? And Phil has just actually published about 126-page book on strength training and the math method as well, which is on his website. They've sent me a copy of it, which I am now in the process of reading as well.
Oh, fantastic. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, definitely makes sense. I've definitely seen, I guess, people sort of ask about, or comment around the math method that, to really be effective, yes, you need to give it time, but you've also obviously got to do it regularly. Like if you're only going to go out and do a walk run once a week or something, you're probably never going to get there. Would that be right?
Yeah, you need some consistency. So I've just started coaching this woman who I mentioned before who's had COVID, and she's going to do 4 runs a week, and they're going to start at 30 minutes, all math-based, but they're going to be like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, so there's always a rest day except for Saturday and Sunday, but Sunday is a run walk. So it's longer, but it's less sort of intense, easier. So she'll run for 6 minutes, walk for 2 minutes, run for 6 minutes, walk for 2 minutes, etc. So, I'd be saying you need at least 3 times a week minimum, if not 4 times. And then once it gets longer and the volume increases or the intensity increases, depending on the person's, if they have injuries or rehab issues, then you sort of go to 3 runs a week with always a day of recovery. It depends on the person. And I'd say 45 minutes is the minimum,
Yeah. Well, fantastic. There's been so much in here that hopefully going to get people thinking and looking down different pathways and wearing different glasses. Just a couple of things I'd like to ask you that I've really sort of picked up with you. You've mentioned a couple of times about Wastebook. So you're not on Facebook. Can I ask you about that decision to take yourself off? Because I know you used to be on there a little while ago. Can I ask how that came about?
Well, about 12 months ago, I was finding I was spending a lot of time scrolling through Facebook during the day. And also, when you are provocative, a lot of people chime in and sort of give you shit, or people ask you all these questions and want free advice. And because I'm doing this full time and it's how I live, I'm not interested in, this is the way I give free advice. I'm not interested in explaining my methods or why I'm doing this to people just because they want to have a go at me. And I found that was happening more and more and more. So I just decided to take the app off my phone. And then because I wasn't on my phone, I started going on the computer on it. And before my race in December, the year before last in New Zealand, I just said, no, I'm deactivating my account. And it's been great. There was a little bit of anxiety there, and I haven't missed it at all. And I haven't gotten, I've gotten more clients because I haven't been wasting time on Wastebook. So I use LinkedIn and Twitter as my main platform. So yeah, I haven't missed anything by not being on Facebook, in my opinion.
Well, just so you know, this probably will be put on Facebook.
That's okay. That's fine. You can tag my Instagram account because I still have that. It's not on my phone, but I go in once a week and just have a look on my computer so I can see what's going on. But I don't post. I might in the future. But, I don't have, all I have on my phone is LinkedIn and Twitter. I don't have any other social media apps on my phone.
Yep. That's great. I think that's a lot of stuff in there for people to think about. I get the anxiety of it. I've had days where I'm like, but if I'm not on there, I won't get my clients. But I think there's a lot to be said about certainly the free stuff. I find that a lot too. People look for that a lot and want to exactly what you've said. A lot, give me some more things to think about.
Yeah, if people aren't prepared to invest money in their health, then I find that when you say don't eat bread and don't drink alcohol, they're not going to do that, or they may not turn up. Like, people value what they pay for, in my opinion, right. And you get what you pay for. That's my other opinion. So I found I was getting all these people just wanting everything for free and arguing with you about stuff. And it was just for me, it was a complete waste of time.
I remember when I first started out, I did offered a few free sessions, and even offering that, a couple of them didn't even turn up, and I'm like, okay, no more of that. It is a learning. It's definitely a learning journey, and with obviously the age of social media and so much information out there, which is fantastic, but really, how are you going to use it? Are you going to just sit there and waste your time on it, or are you going to learn something from it?
I've just been working with a beautiful woman from a country town in Victoria. I won't mention her name. And for 8 weeks, she's lost 1 kilo. But what we've uncovered is the reason she hasn't been eating properly is she's been addicted to her phone. It's taken 8 weeks for us to realize that. And in the last 2 weeks, she's totally worked this phone addiction out, and she's lost 1 kilo a week.
Wow.
So the first thing she did was got rid of Facebook off her phone, the app. And now she actually just turns her phone on in the morning, turns it off, and gets into her day, and that's it. And she said, I can't believe how addicted I was. I think it's a really it's not part of our conversation here, I guess, but I think people really need to think about that. Like, I have no notifications on my phone for anything. The only reason my phone makes a noise if someone rings me. So I'm choosing when I want to go and look at stuff. And I think that's something people might want to take away as well, is why do you need messenger notifications? Why do you, just think about what you're doing and how much time you spend on your phone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think not just that, but I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that people are going to take away from this. So, I can't thank you enough. I have one last question just to wrap it up, and that is, what would you say to your younger self, your 20-year-old something self, now that you know what you know and where you are now?
That's a good question. I would say if what I'm doing is not working, I need to find another approach. And that starts with, don't accept that just because you're like everyone else, then that's optimal. You need to have a deeper think and realize that maybe what everyone else is doing isn't right, and find your own approach. So don't go with the flow or the crowds or the sheep or whatever people say. Ask yourself some deeper questions about what your possibilities could be.
Lovely. Well, beautiful way to end. Thank you, Andre. It's been such a pleasure. I'm going to have all the information below on how people can find you, not on Facebook, but on LinkedIn, and obviously your website. And I can't thank you enough for your time and sharing what you've seen and what you know. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, everyone. Stay well.